So, with NBA free agency coming up in July, I figured in today's video let's talk about one perfect free agent target for every NBA team in 2026. So let's jump right in. Starting with the LA Clippers, I think they should be targeting Mark Williams in free agency. The biggest hole in this roster moving forward is their center position. Their rookie center Giannis was impressive in his limited run, but he tore a ligament in his foot and won't be available for a while next year. They just don't have that reliable paint presence right now, and Mark Williams would be a great fit in this role, playing off Darius Garland. This season for Phoenix, he averaged 12 points, 8 rebounds, and shot 65% from the field while playing a career-high 60 games. The injuries are definitely still a concern, but when he's healthy, he's a really impactful player. He's a massive lob threat, can protect the rim, rebounds the basketball, and doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. Mark Williams is also one of the youngest centers on the market at just 24 years old, and with the Clippers landing the 5th overall pick, maybe trading Kawhi Leonard as well, they could be headed towards a youth movement, a rebuild. And with all that considered, Mark Williams makes a ton of sense. For the Sacramento Kings, let's talk about Matisse Thybulle. Sacramento has desperately needed perimeter defense for years now. They have been putrid to watch on that side of the ball for quite a while, and Matisse Thybulle immediately fixes that problem. This is one of the better perimeter defenders in basketball when healthy. He's got long arms, active hands, great instincts defensively, and he can guard multiple positions. The offense will always be shaky with him out there. He's not a great three-point shooter and isn't a threat at the basket, but that's just part of the package with him at this point. But the Kings already have scoring. They already have guys that can create offense in Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, so what they need is someone who can set the tone for the future of this team, someone willing to do the dirty work defensively, and Matisse Thybulle would fit that role perfectly. For the Indiana Pacers, I've got Landry Shamet. Indiana plays at one of the fastest paces in the NBA, and they need more perimeter players who can knock down their three-point shots consistently, and Landry Shamet checks that box. This season, he averaged 9 points, 2 rebounds, and 1.5 assists on 39% shooting from 3, and has grown so much on the defensive side of the ball compared to where he was. He plays really hard on that end of the floor, even though he's not particularly tall or wide, but putting him next to Tyrese Halliburton would make a ton of sense because he wouldn't be a complete liability next to him in the backcourt defensively, while he'd also be able to thrive off the open three-point looks that Halliburton creates going downhill. Now, let's talk about the New York Knicks, who should be targeting Kelly Oubre Jr. The Knicks are in a tough spot. They're competing for championships and simply cannot afford to miss on another signing like they did with Guerschon Yabusele. Every contract you hand out, every player you sign is a critical decision for where the Knicks are at right now, and what they need is someone reliable, someone you know is good, someone who can come off the bench, play hard defensively, and knock down that open three-point shot. And Kelly Oubre would be perfect in this role for the Knicks, a guy who can step in and start if the team's dealing with injuries, and a guy who can play multiple positions. Now, Oubre obviously isn't a perfect player. His shot selection is questionable at times, and he can go through cold stretches shooting the ball, but for the role the Knicks would need him to be in, as a wing with energy who can score 15 on any given night and defend at a solid level, he'd be a really strong addition to this team. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I really like Sandro Mamu. The Pelicans need more versatility in the front court, and they need more energy in general, and Mamu brings that every night. He's a really unique offensive player for his size, a guy who can handle the ball a bit, pass the ball, stretch the floor, and play with confidence offensively. This season with Toronto, he averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists on 38% shooting from 3, and he gave the Raptors some really solid minutes on offense off the bench. The Pelicans lack flow within the offense, and they lack a big man who can shoot the 3-ball well, someone who'd be a good fit next to Derek Queen in the front court, and Mamu would give them another smart offensive player that can keep the ball moving and provide spacing in the front court. For the Detroit Pistons, I've got Ayo Dosunmo. Detroit took a massive leap this season, winning 60 games, but they still need more reliable depth in the lineups and perimeter creation around Cade Cunningham, and Ayo Dosunmo would play this role perfectly. He's been an underrated role player in basketball for a few years now, but this season he took it to another level, having an incredible season offensively and putting up 40 40 plus points in a playoff game and being a huge reason the Nuggets are out of the playoffs. This season, he averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists on 52% shooting from the field and 41% from 3. A hyper-efficient scorer on offense that's also more than capable of defending multiple positions. He's smart, he doesn't force shots, he can handle secondary playmaking responsibilities, and most importantly, he plays with that winning basketball energy. And putting him next to Cade gives the Pistons another reliable ball handler they desperately need, and someone who can defend the other team's best players at a high level. For the Toronto Raptors, let's talk about Marvin Bagley. Now, this isn't a flashy move, but Toronto desperately needs size, rebounding, and offensive versatility in the front court. I think everyone in Toronto is fed up with Jakob Poeltl at this point and would like to see something new down low next to Scotty Barnes. Now, Bagley isn't perfect defensively, but he gives you athleticism, he gives you rebounding, and he gives you efficient scoring around the basket and behind the three-point line. This season, he averaged 11 points and 6 rebounds while shooting 62% from the field and 46% from 3. He quietly had one of the more efficient scoring seasons of any big man in the NBA, and the resurrection of his career has not been talked about enough. He was absolutely fantastic this year, and the Raptors don't need him to be a star. They just need a big man who can provide energy, score efficiently around the basket, and stretch the floor, and Marvin Bagley could be that guy. For the Houston Rockets, I've got Luke Kennard. Now, this one feels a little obvious, but for good reason. Houston desperately needs more three-point shooting and ball handling in their lineups, and that's exactly what Luke Kennard can bring to the table. Their half-court offense completely fell apart at times this year because teams can simply pack the paint and dare them to shoot. And Luke Kennard fixes a lot of that immediately on day one. He's one of the best shooters in the NBA. He shot 45% from 3 with the Lakers and 50% from 3 with Atlanta this season, and moves extremely well off the ball. Playing next to Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, and Kevin Durant would generate so many open looks for him on the perimeter, and Houston needs the floor spacing badly. Luke Kennard gives them exactly that. For the San Antonio Spurs, let's talk about John Collins. This honestly feels like one of the cleanest possible fits in free agency. The Spurs need a power forward, another athletic front court player next to Victor Wembanyama, somebody who can run the floor, rebound the ball, and stretch the floor offensively. John Collins can do all of these things at a pretty high level, especially shooting the 3 ball. He shot 41% from 3 this year and 40% last year, and playing next to Wemby would make life so much easier for him defensively because Victor Wembanyama covers so much ground on that side already, and offensively, John Collins would thrive getting easy looks at the basket and beyond the arc. For the Phoenix Suns, I've got CJ McCollum. Phoenix desperately needs a true point guard in the backcourt. It's way too often that their offense stalls out and turns into ISO ball with Devin Booker, Dillon Brooks, and Jalen Green trying to create everything for themselves. And CJ could come in and help immediately fix that problem with the attention that you have to pay to him defensively. You could also be done with the Devin Booker point guard experiment and move him back to the 2 where he plays best. D-Book thrived with Chris Paul and true point guards, and adding a veteran like CJ that can get the ball rolling offensively would be a great fit. Even at 34 years old, he's still a very good shot creator in this league. He can run the offense, create his own shot, and take pressure off of Devin Booker. Yeah, the defense isn't great, that's for sure, but Phoenix has guys like Dillon Brooks, Ryan Dunn, Kaman Maluach, and Royce O'Neal who can make up for it. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, I really like Day'Ron Sharpe. The Thunder are obviously loaded already, but one thing they could still use is more size and physicality off the bench at the big man spot, and Day'Ron Sharpe brings exactly that. He is an excellent rebounder for his size, he plays hard, he sets hard screens, he gives you toughness inside, and he consistently brought energy off the bench for Brooklyn. OKC doesn't have much money to spend, and they don't need anything flashy. They need role players who can fill specific gaps, and Day'Ron Sharpe feels like a perfect fit for that system. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, let's talk about Anthony Simons. Simons, Minnesota still needs another perimeter shot creator. Yes, Anthony Edwards is incredible, and yes, this team has still been successful with Mike Conley and Dante DiVincenzo in the backcourt, but it's too often that teams load up on Ant because Minnesota doesn't have enough self-creation on the perimeter, and Anthony Simons could come in and help immediately solve that issue. He's averaged over 20 points per game in back-to-back seasons before, and he shot 40% from 3 in his time with Boston this year. He's one of the faster guards in the NBA with the ball in his hands, and gives Minnesota another guy the defenses actually have to respect offensively. For the Portland Trailblazers, I've got Josh Okogie. The Trailblazers core of Damian Lillard, Deni Avdija, Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant already have what they need offensively, but what they could use is more defensive intensity and three-point shooting off the bench, and Josh Okogie gives you exactly that. He shot over 38% from 3 this season, and with Chris Murray not looking like a great option at the 3, and with Matisse Thybulle being a free agent, Josh Okogie could be a player you can bring in for cheap who impacts the game without needing touches on offense. He's a great hustle player, a solid perimeter defender, he gets active in transition, and he's willing to do all the dirty work. For the Golden State Warriors, let's talk about Jusuf Nurkic. Golden State has desperately needed more size in the front court for years now, and Nurkic would help a ton there. He's still a really skilled passer for a big man, he rebounds well, and he gives you a legitimate interior presence on offense. He had a great season this year, averaging 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists, while shooting over 50% from the field and 35% from 3. Golden State plays with a very specific play style that a lot of big men just can't fit in with. However, I think Nurkic, with the passing and playmaking he can bring, along with the good rebounding and the ability to stretch the floor, would be a perfect fit. Playing next to Stephen Curry would simplify his role on offense and allow him to focus more on setting good screens, rebounding the ball, and facilitating from the high post. And he also shouldn't be that expensive to sign in free agency. For the Washington Wizards, I've got Keon Ellis. The Wizards need perimeter defenders badly, like badly, and Keon Ellis is a sneaky good option. He's got good defensive instincts, he can slot into different roles on offense while guarding multiple positions, and he also brings some solid three-point shooting. He had a bit of a down year shooting the ball this year compared to last year at 43%, but we know he can knock down some open shots. He's also exactly the type of younger role player this team should be targeting to add to their core of Trae Young, Anthony Davis, and Alex Sarr. For the Philadelphia 76ers, let's talk about Dean Wade. The Sixers really need a forward that can defend multiple positions, rebound the ball, and space the floor, and Dean Wade would give them exactly that. Trendon Watford, Justin Edwards, and Dominic Barlow are fine, I guess, but they could use an upgrade at that spot. And by no means would Dean Wade be a flashy pickup. He's not the most exciting player to watch, but he's a contributor to winning basketball. Him playing off Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George would give him the same open floor he has in Cleveland to work with, and I think he'd be a safe player to give a decent amount of money to. He can knock down the open three-pointer and provide some really solid defensive versatility as well. For the Milwaukee Bucks, I've got Benedict Mathurin. Now, the story of Milwaukee's offseason and their free agency is entirely dependent on what they do with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Do they trade him? Do they not? Do they trade for another star? We don't know yet, but regardless of their direction, the team is lacking a scoring punch, and they're lacking young talent to be excited about. If Giannis stays, Mathurin could provide that extra ball handling and shot creation in the backcourt that they need, or if Giannis leaves, Mathurin can be one of the young guys you give the keys to and see what you can get out of him long term, and that could be a very, very good player. Yes, he is inconsistent offensively, but the upside is legit, and if you can unlock him, you're looking at a guy who could average over 20 points a night. For the Chicago Bulls, let's talk about Austin Reaves. This would be a home run signing for the Chicago Bulls, who have been one of the most embarrassing franchises in the NBA over the last decade plus. Austin Reaves has developed into one of the better offensive guards in basketball and would bring a huge shift to this team, who needs to give their fan base something to be excited about next to Josh Giddey and Matas Buzelis. This season, Austin Reaves averaged 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 49% shooting from the field and 36% from 3. He is an excellent secondary secondary playmaker, a good shooter, and a very solid shot creator. The Bulls desperately need a long-term offensive engine, and Austin Reaves could absolutely give them that. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, I've got LeBron James. Now, do I even need to explain this one? The Cavs are trying to win a championship right now. They just added James Harden to one of the best starting lineups in the NBA, and bringing LeBron James back to Cleveland to slot into that starting small forward spot would immediately make them one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference. Even at 41 years old, he's still one of the smartest and most impactful players in basketball, a great playmaker, a good three-point shooter, can still take the ball to the rack and play solid defense. The fit offensively with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley would be incredible as well, and story-wise, with this being LeBron's hometown team, this would be one of the coolest signings in NBA history. For the Boston Celtics, let's talk about Robert Williams. A reunion with Robert Williams in Boston just makes way too much sense. Boston already knows exactly what Time Lord brings to the table defensively, great rim protection, a lob threat offensively, and one of the better help defenders in basketball when healthy. His health is obviously the biggest concern with him right now, but if he is available, Boston bringing him back to round out their center rotation would be a perfect fit. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I've got Colin Sexton. With Memphis most likely trading Ja Morant this summer, they're going to need someone at the guard spot that can bring them a scoring punch, and Colin Sexton gives you instant offense. He just turned 27 years old, so he's not far off from the Memphis rebuilding timeline, and he could provide a steady answer at the starting point guard spot for this team over the next few years. He's great at attacking the basket, and he's grown so much with his shot in the mid-range area and behind the three-point line over the last few years. He's not a perfect player, but Memphis needs somebody who can create offense for them now that Ja Morant is out the door. For the Atlanta Hawks, let's talk about Isaiah Hartenstein. This would be a phenomenal fit, probably one of the better fits of free agency. Atlanta has needed a true defensive center for years now, and Hartenstein would 100% fill that need for them. He's a smart passer, he's very sound offensively, a great screener, an excellent rebounder, and one of the better interior defenders in basketball right now. Pairing him with Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the pick and roll and Jalen Johnson in the front court would work beautifully and would instantly make this one of the scarier teams in the Eastern Conference. For the Miami Heat, I've got Rui Hachimura. Miami always seems to get the most out of their players, and Rui feels like the exact type of player they could use long term. This season, he averaged 12 points and 3 rebounds on 51% from the field and 44% from three. He was one of the best, the most efficient three-point shooters in the NBA this year, and that fit next to Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero could be perfect. Rui can give you athleticism, he can give you solid defense and efficient scoring in the mid-range area and at the three-point line. For the Charlotte Hornets, let's talk about Kristaps Porzingis. To take this Charlotte team to the next level, a playoff series, and maybe even winning a playoff series, they desperately need more talent in the front court, and adding a veteran presence like Kristaps who can block shots, protect the paint, and knock down shots at every level of the floor would be a dream fit for the Hornets. Yes, I like Ryan Kalkbrenner and Moussa Diabate too, but they're not finished products offensively, and Porzingis, when healthy, can give you that elite floor spacing at the center position. The health concerns are real. He only played in 17 games for Atlanta and 15 games for Golden State this season, but if you can keep him healthy, the fit with LaMelo, Con Knipple, and Brandon Miller would be incredible. For the Utah Jazz, I've got Russell Westbrook. This isn't about winning championships right now for the Utah Jazz, it's about building a culture of competitiveness, and Russell Westbrook, even at 37 years old, still plays with that same fire and intensity he did at 27 years old. He could help set the tone for the future for a younger roster and bring a steady, reliable presence in the point guard room. For the Los Angeles Lakers, let's talk about Mitchell Robinson. If there's anything we can learn from the Lakers getting swept by the OKC Thunder, it's that they need size badly. They were killed on the glass. Their interior defense fell apart way too often with DeAndre Ayton this year, and Mitchell Robinson could step in and immediately fix that. And playing next to Luka Doncic would create so many easy lob opportunities on offense as well. For the Orlando Magic, I've got Tim Hardaway Jr. Orlando desperately needs three-point shooting, like desperately needs three-point shooting. That's the biggest issue holding them back from being a true contender out of the Eastern Conference. Tim Hardaway Jr. can still shoot the basketball at a high level. He hit 41% of his threes this season, and Orlando just needs more perimeter threats around Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner to fully unlock their star duo. At 34 years old, he wouldn't be too expensive for a Magic team that is already extremely expensive, and he could bring a reliable veteran presence on the wing that they could really use. For the Dallas Mavericks, let's talk about Coby White. With Kyrie Irving entering his mid-30s and coming off a torn ACL, Dallas just needs another guard who can create offense consistently in case Kyrie continues dealing with health issues or maybe isn't the same player when he comes back. We've seen Coby White average over 20 points on good efficiency, and in Charlotte he showed just how amazing he could be as the lead guard coming off the bench. He's quick, he's confident offensively, and he would thrive scoring the ball playing off of Cooper Flag. For the Brooklyn Nets, I've got Peyton Watson. Brooklyn should absolutely be targeting younger players with huge upside, and Peyton Watson fits the bill perfectly. He's an elite athlete, a really impactful defender already in his career, and this season started showing real growth on the offensive side of the ball. He started 40 games this season, and in those 40 games, he put up 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists. And he still feels like a player with a ton of untapped potential if he was just given the ball more with a larger role on offense. And the Nets need a close to proven young player to build around, and with the most cap space in the NBA, they should be throwing everything they have at Peyton Watson to pry him away from Denver. And finally, for the Denver Nuggets, let's talk about Jackson Hayes. Denver got embarrassed in the playoffs this year, and it was very obvious they need athleticism and vertical spacing off the bench, and Jackson Hayes could absolutely give them that. Playing behind Nikola Jokic would make his role quite simple. Just come in, play with energy, run the floor, contest shots at the rim, catch lobs, and just be someone that can intimidate an offense down low. That backup center position is one of, if not the biggest hole on this roster right now, and Jackson Hayes, who shouldn't be too expensive, feels like a perfect fit for the Denver Nuggets. But anyways, that is going to wrap up one free agent target for every NBA team. Let me know what you guys think down below, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and I hope to catch you guys in another one soon. Until then, I'm out. Deuces.